Section 7 of Weird Tales, Jules de Grandin, Volume 1, by Seabury Quinn. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. The Vengeance of India, Part 1. All day the March wind had been muttering and growling like a peevish giant with a toothache. As darkness fell, it began to raise its voice. By 9 o'clock it was shrieking and screaming like a billion banshees suffering with cholera morbus. I huddled over the coke fire burning in my study grate and tried to concentrate on my book, to forget the wailing of the wind and the misfortunes of the day, but made very poor work of it. Mingling with the wind skirling, there suddenly sounded the raucous bellow of an automobile siren, followed a moment later by a hammering and clattering at the front door, as if whoever stood outside would beat the panels in by main force. "If you please, sir," Nora, my maid of all work, announced, poking her nose around the half-opened study door, "there's a gentleman to see you, an Italian man, I think he is." Nora disapproved strongly of foreigners in general, and Italians in particular, and when they come, as they frequently do, to summon me from the house on a stormy night, her disapproval is hidden neither from my callers nor me. Tonight, however, I greeted the interruption with something like relief. Action of any sort, even travelling a dozen miles to set an Italian labourer's broken limb without much hope of compensation, would provide a welcome distraction from the pall of gloom which enveloped me. "Bring him in," I ordered. "Parbleu!" exclaimed a voice behind her. "He is already in. Did you think, my friend, that I would travel all this way on such a night to have your servant debate entrance with me?" I leaped from my chair with a whoop of delight and seized both my visitor's slender hands in mine. "De Grandin!" I exclaimed delightedly. "Jules de Grandin! What in the world are you doing here? I thought you'd be in your laboratory at the Sorbonne by now." "But no," he denied, handing his sopping cap and raincoat to Nora, and seating himself across the fire from me. "There is little rest for the wicked in this world, my friend, and for Jules de Grandin there is none at all. Hardly had we finished with that villainous Gunong Bazaar than I was dispatched post-haste to Brazil, and when my work was finished there, I must needs be called to tell you of my experiments before your association of physicians in New York. Eh bien, but I fear me I shall not see my peaceful laboratory for some time, my friend." "Oh, so you were in Brazil?" I answered thoughtfully. "Trowbridge, my friend." He put out both hands impulsively. "The mention of that country distresses you. Tell me, can I be of help?" "I'm afraid not," I replied sadly. "It's an odd coincidence your coming from there to-day, though. You see, a patient of mine, a Brazilian lady, died to-day, and I have no more idea what killed her than an African bushman has about the nebular hypothesis." "Oh, la la!" he chuckled. "Friend Trowbridge, to see you is worth travelling twice around the world. 40 years a physician, and he worries over a faulty diagnosis. My dear fellow, do you not know the only truthful certificate a physician ever gives for the cause of death is when he writes down unknown?" "I suppose so," I agreed, "but this case is out of the ordinary, de Grandin. These people, the Drigos, have lived here only a few weeks, and virtually nothing is known of them, except that they seem to have plenty of money. This morning, about 11 o'clock, I was called to attend their only child, a daughter about 18 years of age, and found her in a sort of stupor. Not a faint, nor yet a condition of profound depression, simply sleepy, like any young woman who was up late the previous night. There was no history of unusual activity on her part. She had gone to bed at her usual hour the night before, and was apparently in good health within an hour of the time I was called. I could see no reason for my services, to tell you the truth, for her condition did not appear at all serious. Yet, before I could reassure her parents and leave the house, she went to sleep and slept her life away, died in what appeared a healthy, natural sleep in less than 10 minutes." "Ah," he answered on a rising note, "you interest me, my friend. It is perhaps some new acute form of sleeping sickness we have here. Come, can you make some excuse to go to the people's house? I would make inquiries from them. Perchance we shall learn something for the benefit of science." I was about to demur when the tinkle of my telephone cut in. "Dr. Trowbridge," called the party at the other end, "this is Johnston, the undertaker, speaking. Can you come over to Drigo's to sign the death certificate, or shall I bring it to your house tomorrow? I can't get any information from these folks. They don't even know what she died of." "Neither do I," I muttered to myself, but aloud I said, "Why, yes, Mr. Johnston, I'll come right over. There's a friend of mine, another doctor here. I'll bring him along." "Good enough," he responded. "If I have to argue with these Dagoes much longer, I'll need you, and your friend too, to patch up my nerves." Robed in a gown of priceless old lace, a white net mantilla drawn over her smoothly parted black hair, Romualda Drigo lay at rest in an elaborate open couch casket of mahogany, her slender, oleander white hands piously crossed upon her virginal bosom, a rosary carved of ebony, terminating in a silver crucifix, intertwined in her waxen fingers. "Bon Dieu," de Grandin breathed as he bent over the girl's composed oval face. She was beautiful, this poor one. Hellish that she should die thus early. I murmured an assent as I took the form Mr. Johnston proffered me and wrote "Unknown" in the space reserved for the cause of death, and about 1/2 hour in the place allotted for duration of last illness. "Gosh, Doc, he's a queer one, that foreign friend of yours," the undertaker commented, attracting my attention with a nudge and nodding toward de Grandin. The little Frenchman was bending over the casket, his blond waxed moustache twitching like the whiskers of an alert tomcat, his slender, womanish hands patting the girl's arms and breast questingly, as though they sought the clue to her mysterious death beneath the folds of her robe. "He's queer, all right," I agreed, "but I've never seen him do anything without good reason. Why—" A faltering step in the hall cut short my remark as Mr. Drigo entered the parlour. "Good evening, Dr. Trowbridge," he greeted with a courteous bow. "Dr. de Grandin," as I presented the Frenchman, "I am honoured to make your acquaintance." De Grandin nodded in absent-minded acknowledgment of the courtesy and turned away, addressing Mr. Johnston in a whisper. "You are an embalmer, my friend?" he asked, almost eagerly, it seemed to me. "Yes," answered the other, wonderingly. "I've had a license to practice for 10 years." "And it is customary that you embalm the dead in this country, yes?" de Grandin insisted. "Yes, sir, but sometimes—" "And when embalmment is not made, it is the exception rather than the rule?" "Decidedly, but—" "You would embalm as a matter of course, unless expressly ordered to the contrary, then?" "Yes," Johnston admitted. "Ah, then, it was Monsieur Drigo who forbade that you embalm his daughter?" The undertaker started as though pricked with a needle. "How did you know?" he demanded. The ghost of one of his impish smiles flickered across de Grandin's face, to be replaced instantly with a look more suited to the occasion. "In France, my friend," he confided, "the science of embalming, as practised in America, is still a rarity. But in Paris we have a young man, a Canadian, who preserves the dead even as you do here, and from him I have learned many things. I have, for example, learned that you inject the preserving fluids in either the brachial, the carotid, the axillary, or the femoral artery. Très bien. If you have embalmed this poor child here, you have used one of those arteries, n'est-ce pas?" The chances are that an American embalmer would not utilize the femoral artery to embalm a woman's body, so I feel to see if you have bandaged the arm or breast of that poor dead child, where you have inserted your fluid tube in one of those other arteries. I find no bandage. I feel her cheeks. They are firm as life. Therefore, I decide embalmment have not been done, and knowing your custom here, I ask to know who have ordered the contrary. Voila! It are not magic which make me know, but the ordinary sense of the horse. He linked his arm in mine. Come, friend Trowbridge, he announced, there is no more we can do here. Let us leave this sad house to its sorrow. To-morrow, or the next day, perhaps you will have more of these so mysterious cases, and we can study them together. Meanwhile, let us leave what we cannot help. The three of us, Johnston, de Grandin, and I, were about to pass from the house, when the Frenchman paused, gazing intently at a life-sized, half-length portrait in oils hanging on the hall wall. "Monsieur Drigo," he asked, "forgive my unseemly curiosity, but that gentleman, who was he?" Something like terror appeared in the other's face as he answered, "My grandfather, sir." "Ah, but monsieur," de Grandin objected, "that gentleman, he wears the British uniform, is it not so?" "Yes," Drigo replied, "my mother's father was a British officer, her mother was a Portuguese lady." "Thank you," de Grandin replied with a bow as he followed me through the front door. They buried Romuald Drigo in the little graveyard of the Catholic chapel the following day. It was a dreary ceremony. No one but the old priest, the Drigo family, de Grandin and I were in attendance, and the wailing March wind seemed echoing our own sombre thoughts as it soughed through the branches of the leafless Lombardy poplars. "It is old, that cemetery," de Grandin hazarded as we drove from the church to my house following the brief committal service. "Very old," I assented. "St. Benedict's is one of the earliest Roman Catholic parishes in New Jersey, and the cemetery is one of the few in this neighborhood dating back to colonial days. And have you noticed any strange colored men in the neighborhood lately?" he asked irrelevantly. "Strange colored men?" I echoed. "What in the world are you driving at, de Grandin? First you ask me if the cemetery is old, then you go off at a tangent, and want to know if there are any strange negroes in the neighborhood. You—" "Tell me, my friend," he interrupted, "how did the poor dead lady spend her time? Did she walk much in the country, or go from home much in the night? For heaven's sake!" I looked at him in wonderment, and almost ran the car into the roadside ditch. "Have you lost your senses completely, or are you trying to see how foolish you can be? I never heard such rambling questions." "Nor have you ever heard that the longest way round is usually the shortest way home, apparently," he added. "Believe me, my friend, I do not ask aimless questions. But no, that is not my method. Come, if you will set me down I shall walk through the village and attempt to collect some information. My regards to your amiable cook, if you please, and request that she will prepare some of her so excellent apple pie for dinner. I shall be home by meal-time, never fear." He was as good as his word. It lacked 20 minutes of the dinner hour when he hurried into the house, his cheeks reddened from brisk walking in the chilly March air. But something in his manner, his nervously quick movements, his air of suppressed excitement, told me he was on the track of some fresh mystery. "Well, what is it?" I asked as we adjourned to the library after dinner. "Have you heard anything of the strange colored men you were so anxious about this afternoon?" I could not forbear a malicious grin as I reminded him of his senseless question. "But of course," he returned evenly, as he lighted a French cigarette and blew a cloud of acrid smoke toward the ceiling. Am I not Jules de Grandin, and does not Jules de Grandin get the information he seeks at all times? Most certainly." He laughed outright at the amazed look with which I greeted his egotistical sally. "La la, friend Trowbridge," he exclaimed, "you are so droll. Always you Americans and English would have the world believe you have yourselves in perfect control, yet I can play upon you as a harpist plays upon his strings. When will you learn that my honest, well-merited self-respect is not empty boastfulness?" He cast aside his bantering manner, and leaned forward very suddenly. "What do you know of St. Benedict's Cemetery?" he demanded. "Eh, St. Benedict's?" I countered, at a loss to answer. "Precisely, exactly," he affirmed. "Do you, for example, know that the entire ground near the old chapel is underlaid with ancient tombs, vaulted, brick-lined passageways?" "No," I replied, "never heard such a thing." "Ah, so," he answered sarcastically, "all your life you have lived here, yet you know not of this curiosity. Truly, I have said not half enough in praise of Jules de Grandin, I fear. And, since you know nothing of the tombs, I take it you did not know that when the Drigo family became affiliated with St. Benedict's congregation, they bought the freehold to a pew, and along with it the license to bury their dead in one of the old tombs. Eh, you did not know that?" "Of course not," I returned. "I'm a physician, not a detective, de Grandin. Why should I pry into my patient's private affairs?" Why indeed?" he replied. Then, with an abrupt change of subject, "Have you heard Beinhanner's new hypothesis concerning cannibalism?" "No?" And with that he launched on a long and highly technical explanation of the Austrian's theory of destructive metabolism, nor could all my efforts drag him back to a single word concerning his discoveries of the afternoon. "Pretty bad business down to the graveyard, ain't it, Doc?" asked the postman, as I passed him on my way to my morning calls the following day. "What's that?" I asked, startled. "What's happened?" He smiled with the conscious superiority of one who has interesting gossip to retail. "That Drigo girl." He jerked an indicative thumb in the general direction of the Drigo home. "The one that died the other day. Some grave robbers must have dug her up last night, 'cause the sexton of St. Benedict's found her veil laying on the ground this morning. They're going to open her grave this afternoon to see if her body is still there, I hear. 'Tain't likely they'll find nothing, though. Them body snatchers don't usually leave nothing laying around when they get through." "Good heavens!" I exclaimed. "Grave robbery!" "Yep, that's what they say." I hurried on my way, my thoughts racing faster than the wheels of my motor. It was all too likely. Gossip of the mysterious cause of the girl's death was bound to have got about, and her lovely body would have proved an irresistibly attractive bait for some anatomist with a passion for morbid research. At my first stop I called the house and told de Grandin. "Cordieu, is it so?" he shouted in answer. "I have won my bet, then." "You what?" I replied incredulously. "Last night, when I had learned what I had learned, I wagered with myself that she would not remain grave-bound," he replied. "Now I have won. This afternoon I go to witness the exhumation, but it is little more than a waste of time. She will not be there. On that I bet myself 10 francs. "What the devil—" I began, but a sharp click told me he had hung up. 3 minutes later, when I re-established communication with the office, Nora told me that the furrin gentleman had gone down the road as if the little good people was after him. End of The Vengeance of India, Part 1.